you start looking at this and it's like they've printed themselves into the biggest hole, and the economy for 10, 12 years has got addicted to cheap money. And they're going to have to do something drastic, I think, to get ourselves out of this. But what's going on, Real Deals listeners? We are here with my good friend, Aaron Palushaj.
You got it.
I'm so happy.
Doesn't happen too often.
Dude, on the way here to the office, I'm like, Palushaj. I'm trying to remember exactly how to say it because I'm like, I don't want to screw it up. But so Aaron is doing a bunch of multifamily stuff. We actually connected about a year ago. You were still playing professional hockey overseas in Switzerland?
Yep.
And you were doing some new construction building in Michigan. You grew up there, but your wife lived in California, all over the globe. And you wanted to do some fix and flips. You started using the call center. We crushed it for you. And then you wanted to do more development. And so you're not doing so much single family, but now you're building, finishing up a 6 unit. You're building out a 64 unit coming up. How many doors do you actually have now?
18, all 2 bedrooms. And right now, 12, and then the 6 that are being developed. And those will be starting to be leased out in May.
Gotcha. So you were just kind of like figuring out, you're same age as me. You're 32? 32. And so you were just coming to the tail end of your hockey career. You played in the NHL. You started playing, overseas when that, kind of pushed down a little bit of it there. And you're like, hey, I got to do something else in life. And you really liked real estate. Your dad was a builder, contractor. So why don't you talk about who you are and what your plan is and how you're building this business?
Thank you, Elliot. Thanks for having me on the show. I played 12 years of pro hockey. Took me all over the world. Very fortunate to have represented my country, played in the NHL, played in Russia, Sweden, Switzerland, Croatia, Canada, and the US. So traveled a lot. I lived in a lot of different apartments all over the world. So I had a taste of real estate growing up. My dad, he was in the restaurant industry, but he also built spec homes. He built some commercial properties. So I was always involved kind of at a young age with some of the builds that he would do. And towards the tail end of my career, I got an opportunity to do a couple spec homes with him, some other commercial properties. And I just took a liking to real estate. I saw the power of, everybody, a lot of people are looking for financial freedom. And early in my career, you're 21, 22, 23, playing hockey, making, okay money, decent money. And you're not really thinking too much of the after hockey. You're like, yeah, I'm going to play till I'm 40 years old, like Tom Brady. But there is life after hockey, and it comes to an end at some point. So it's, what do you want to do after hockey? And I found it really easy for me to make that decision. It was real estate. It was continually do some of the spec homes with my dad, some other commercial properties. And then the last couple of years, I got really interested in the multifamily side of things. So 2 years ago, built my first 12 unit. We're finishing up the 6 unit right now. So looking to scale this business. We have a couple larger properties on the horizon, 64 unit, like you mentioned. There's a 48 unit, not too far from the 64 unit. We'll be doing as a joint venture with a buddy in Michigan, and then another larger 88 unit that is probably Q4 of 2022.
Nice. So it's funny because I feel like we kind of both got into the multifamily game relatively about the same time, and we're just doing the same thing, almost growing at similar clips, but you went new construction versus we went buying existing buildings. So why don't you talk a little bit about why you decided to go build new construction stuff instead of going and buying, existing buildings?
So not everybody just jumps into development on their first multifamily. They look to buy something, a 4-plex, a 6-plex, a 12 unit that's existing. I went from building spec homes, doing some flips, to building new 12 unit, 15,000 square foot. So a relatively large 12 unit. And I just saw the power of building the equity in the building side of it, refinancing, pulling a lot of the initial capital back out and redeploying it. So it's like, oh, wow, okay, this works really well for a 12 unit. We could control exactly what we want in the design process, how it functions. Nothing wrong with buying properties that are built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but a little different standards than 2019, 2020, now in 2022. Saw the power of the refinance, what that could do, and how much equity was built into developing it. The caveat with that is it's a long process. Developing takes a long time. finding the land.
A lot of things that can go wrong.
A lot of things could go wrong. You need to make sure that it's zoned properly. The entitlement process could be really long. So it's definitely a learning curve. And I learned a lot of lessons along the way.
Nice. Yeah. So when you're developing these properties, so like on this, we type that 31 unit we're talking about, and it comes with a lot to build a six units. And I'm trying to do the math in my head, and I'm not seeing we'll basically have that lot for free. And I'm still not seeing a huge margin on the build. We're going to hire somebody to fee build it. But I think we'll definitely get all our money back out, but I'm not seeing this huge refi. But I know my buddy Artem has done it really well, basically pulling out all their capital when they're building, they bought $250 million in LA. So are you just trying to get your capital back or your investors' capital, or are you trying to get more money back to live on?
So if the goal is, if we could get our initial capital and our investors' initial capital out, or even 80% of the way there, get 80% of the initial invested capital out, and it's cash flowing pretty well and on a conservative refi, then we're pretty happy with that. So that's kind of the benchmark. If we're forced to leave 80% of the equity in, then we will look at another area, another development, or possibly an acquisition.
Yeah, our spreadsheet there's that one of the most important box in there is refi percentage of cash out on your refi, and that is a huge metric because you don't want to leave a ton of money in these deals, even though it might look like a good deal, but it's man, if I can't get at least 70% of my money back, it's shit. Then you're capped, right? That was the biggest lesson we were learning on that 24 unit we bought. We just went straight Freddie Fannie, put $650,000 into it, and then it's we got prepayment penalties, and it's shit. Now that money's locked away, and and so it's you don't want to. Then it's hard to continue to grow, right?
Yeah. Opportunity cost. So you lock in that money, and it's a great rate, but then can you do something more with that 600 grand? Can you go and buy another property and develop another property? So it's all about, weighing, does the market support certain rents? Can you pull out this equity? Are you going to be, because construction costs are also changing a lot. So with development, it could add 15-20% to the initial bid with how crazy this environment is right now. So it's definitely some risk. These are smaller properties where we will be getting into some larger ones, but guys that are doing the 250, 300 unit developments, I tip my hat off to them. Obviously, it's a long learning curve to get there, but it's really impressive.
Yeah. So I kind of did this show a little bit backwards, because we were talking so much yesterday and we were talking a lot before the show, and I'm I kind of just jumped in right to the real estate. But I want to really, people, one of the things that people say, whether they're getting into wholesaling, fix and flips, new construction, whatever it is, something into real estate, the, biggest thing is people they don't have time. They work, 40 or 50 hours a week. They, they have a family, a job, and they say they don't have time. Well, I remember talking to you when you were in Switzerland. Middle of the day for me, middle of the night for you, right? And so you were playing professional hockey in a 12-hour head time zone or whatever it was, and you were still doing real estate probably at 2 and 3 in the morning in that when you were living in Switzerland. So why don't you talk a little bit about what you've learned and how the grit that you had to show and what your schedule looked like when you were starting to build this?
Yeah, there's so a lot of people may not know, but as professional athletes, we do practice a lot, and on game days, it takes up, it's time consuming. It isn't quite as time consuming as maybe a traditional, 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 job. So fortunately, I was able to, and I also was living by myself. So my wife was in medical school and then in residency. So she would just come and visit. So I had a lot of time to dive into this. And the first development, the 12 unit, I bootstrapped a lot of it. I did a lot of the, going to Home Depot's websites, trying to get the best deals on, Black Fridays. And it was a really interesting learning experience. And to answer your question, it doesn't come overnight, and it's not very easy. So if if someone's listening that's working an 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 job, there's sacrifices that need to be made, and maybe you allot 3 hours after work before family time and dinner, and you stick to that plan. It's definitely doable and achievable, but it's a grind. There's a lot of hard work that it takes to get to that level, and if the plan is to keep your 9 to 5 and keep your W-2 while you're doing it, it's doable, but there's a lot of sacrifices that need to be made.
Yeah, it's as you're talking, I go back and thinking of my Franz days when I was, I guess get done running a route and I'm in my supervisor van, but I had to run a route that day, so I started at like 1 a.m. and I have somebody call me during the day and to go walk a property, and so I get done at like 3 or 4. Then I drive in my Franz van. Not all the time. Sometimes I go home and change the van, but it actually gave me a lot of street cred too when I go to these people's houses. Like, I've been working 15 hours. Like, I'm a hustler. So, but like, just freaking tired. You just be so exhausted, right? But it can be done. I didn't have a family. I didn't have, I had my wife, girlfriend, wife. She was my wife at the time. And so, I had her, but like there's a lot of sacrifices you have to make.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've learned and a lot of the really successful people in this space, they talk about time blocking and how important it is to, if my morning starts at 4:30 and I'm going to do my morning, my miracle morning, whatever it is for you, from 4:30 to 6:30 before I work out, I have, X, Y, and Z that I need to do every day. And it's important to have a block of like, okay, I'm not going to get distracted. Phone's going to be away during this time. And I'm going to get this done because it's the quietest time in the morning. And I know I'm going to be able to get, 2 solid hours of whatever I need to do in before my real morning start.
So you're getting up at 4:30 every day? Now I know why when you said the other day you're going to bed at 9 when I was texting you.
Not on weekends, but yeah, during the weekday. We're in California, so Michigan, we're obviously 3 hours behind Michigan. We're doing all of our multifamily in Michigan right now. We'll be expanding a little bit more on the western side of the state and then also in the Midwest, but 3-hour time change. So waking up at 4:30 is, it's the start of the day in Michigan.
Hey, it's better than the middle of the night in Switzerland. So
yeah, exactly.
Would you say that you're pretty disciplined? Like, I mean, I think you would have to be to become a professional hockey player. It takes a lot of hard work, and like, would you say that you're pretty structured and you can be a disciplined person? Because I've always admired people that have discipline and can structure their life. I just fly by the seat of my pants.
I think being structured and being disciplined don't necessarily need to go together. I am definitely disciplined, structured. I'm still working on that. Being disciplined throughout my career, for sure. I think it was instilled in me at a young age. Getting to a pinnacle of a professional hockey career and playing in the NHL took a lot of discipline, a lot of setbacks. So in addition to the discipline, I think just not expecting stuff overnight and willing to kind of put yourself out there and take a leap of faith. I didn't know I was going to play college hockey and pro hockey, but I gave it everything I could. I was disciplined with my time and my training and put my best foot forward. I was fortunate and blessed to have had a long career, but there was no guarantee. So, and just like any business, and you dive into real estate and you're looking to scale your multifamily business or your fix and flip business, it's there's no guarantee, but if you're disciplined and you put the hard work in, there's a good chance of you becoming successful.
Awesome. So let's dive in because we're both in building phase right now, right? We're both, you got your Palushaj properties up there, your Palushaj capital. You're going to start hiring people for property management, probably start building that out. Are you going to fully integrate, since you're doing the construction, are you going to fully integrate property management, everything in-house?
Yeah. We will be doing that.
Gotcha. So what are the challenges that you are facing right now in just this whole startup mode and trying to get this thing running? Because this is your first full year that you're not playing professional hockey, right? I mean, you're gonna play the 3-on-3 stuff this summer, but yeah. So what are the challenges that you're facing that just you haven't expected, and then what are you working on a day-to-day basis right now? So
the challenges are just getting the processes and systems. We're a really lean company right now, very new, with aspirations to be, to grow quite a bit. So I think that the challenges for us right now is just getting processes and kind of linking everything together, from the construction side of thing to the investor relations to the property management. There's just a lot of aspects and pieces to this business, and especially when you want to be vertically integrated. So without being able to go out and hire 10 people, you need to bootstrap a lot of it. And it's one thing that we're focusing on, and we've been focusing on, is the processes and systems, from how residents are treated to checklists to, just the whole 9 yards in terms of processes you need for this business. And it's just a lot. I'm blown away with how much actually goes into just one arm of the business. So it's fun, but there's a lot.
Yeah, I always ask myself all the time, how do property management companies actually make money? You know what I mean? Because it's they're only charging some of the big, guys that own a bunch of units, they're charging them 5 or 6%. And I'm guessing like the 5 or 6% covers the lease up or the overhead, and then they make money on the lease up fees. But I'm just like, man, there's, we're getting paid a little bit of money for property managing some of our joint owned properties, and it's like $1,500 a month, and it's like, that's okay. That's a quarter of the person's salary. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's tough, but then you run into these property managers that are so terrible, right? Our team walked a property that we had tied up this week, and the property manager was there, and she's talking about, they screwed up the eviction because they didn't turn off their payment portal, so they're like 3 months late, they're about ready to get them evicted, which is really hard in Washington State right now, but the person went and made a partial payment, so it restarted the thing all over, and it's just like, how much money did that just cost that owner, right? And it's just, so challenging.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also when you're dealing with third-party property managements, some of them own properties, some of them are just third-party property managers. So no one is gonna care for your property and your residents as much as you are. I don't care what anybody says. It's just it's not human nature for someone. It could be a great company, but to treat your residents how you want them to be treated. So it's, yeah, as you're scaling and growing, there's a lot of moving pieces, but trying to do things the right way and how you want your company to be viewed is really important.
Gotcha. All right, so we talked about that. What about acquisitions? How are you sourcing your dirt? What's your acquisitions model look like? Are you running acquisitions? I think you're wearing a bunch of hats right now. So, and before you answer that, I was thinking in the back of my head, you say professional hockey player, you say any professional athlete, right? People think you made a ton of money, like you're just loaded. And then it's easy for you because you have all this money. Speak to that a little bit too.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely not every professional athlete makes the LeBron James, the Steph Curry, the Sidney Crosby type salaries. Our careers are very short. Fortunate to have had a good career. Definitely not a career where now I could just sit back and enjoy 401k monthly income coming in. So I need to do something outside of hockey. Like I said, very fortunate to have no student debt and I started pro at 20 years old, so was making decent money at an early age, but definitely not in the millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, you're still raising money for these deals because you don't have enough to fund all these deals yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's the point too. I just really want to make is like you're just bootstrapping it just like the rest of us, right? Like you're a normal guy, made a good living, had some good experiences, but you're not sitting then like Scrooge McDuck with a pile of gold.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, all right, talk about your sales and like how your acquisitions model looks like, what you're kind of doing for that currently.
So like you mentioned, I'm wearing a lot of hats right now. I'm doing a decent amount of the acquisitions right now. We are looking to hire an acquisitions, I don't know, a manager, intern, someone that could help source more land, more actual acquisitions of multifamily. So right now we're looking between kind of 30 and 150 to 200 units for acquisitions in specific markets. So we will start a direct mail campaign. We have a couple properties that are just vacant land. The one in particular, that's the 48 unit, our partner in that one actually owns 24 units. That is, he owns outright, and there's an additional 18 acres of land on that property. So it was initially zoned for 104 additional units. So gotcha. We're pretty comfortable with 48. We will be using a 6-unit plan that we're comfortable with, and we're finishing up right now. So the economies of scale and figuring out, pretty much where we're going to be price point wise is going to be nice for that development.
Why not maximize the density? You can get 104.
So that was approved in 89. And I think some things have changed. We were born. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, some things have changed. So we're going to try to, we will try to maximize a little more on the small end. I think the least we'll be able to get is 48. So we want to go in with 48 in mind. If the numbers work out, great. If we get, additional 12, 18, 24 of them, that'd be great.
Gotcha. Now, are you doing more like garden style communities? Or are you doing big boxes or?
Yeah, more garden style. So the 6-unit we're finishing up right now, it'll be kind of actually townhome style. So main level living, attached garage, second floor with 2 bedrooms, full bath. We're putting solar on that. We're going to have electric charging capabilities in the garage. What else is going into that one? Smart home tech. So be able to control your garage opener from your phone, your thermostat, your doors. So it's pretty exciting.
Nice. So you're doing direct mail. Have you started doing direct mail yet?
For multifamily, we have not. We are going to roll that out here in February, and we're going to have a 6 to 12 month campaign for direct mail. Yep.
Nice. What model are you going to follow on that? Like how did you pull your list? How did you narrow down your list? Like how targeted are you getting? Are you doing handwritten letters? What's your kind of plan there?
We will be doing handwritten letters for the first round of marketing. List will be pulled from CoStar. So we'll use CoStar for majority of the purpose. Seems to have pretty good data. We could pull
It does. It's just missing data though. Like even in my market, like I driving through and seeing like buildings and I'm like, oh, let me pull this up on CoStar. It's not there. And it's like a 50 unit. Right. And so just be very careful like with CoStar. Like, so when we pulled our list, we pulled CoStar and we pulled existing stuff, but then we also pulled lists from the county as well and matched them up and overlapped them.
Yeah, that's a great point, Elliot. I'm going to have to definitely do that because you don't want to be missing any 50 units. That's kind of right in our alley.
Yeah, Greg and I drove. He was here when we were doing the inspection on our deal. We just tied up this week, and we were driving around, and I'm like, looking at some of these properties that have that I had to go on Google Maps and just find rooftops, right? And I'm like, there's no information. And then I had emailed the CoStar rep one time, like, hey, can you get more information? And Greg's like, hey, stop that. Because as soon as the CoStar rep puts the information on, he puts it on for everybody. So we know how to find the information. Don't do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're gonna have. Yeah, exactly. You're gonna widen the pool of letters they're gonna be getting.
Yeah. So are you going for existing and land on this campaign?
We'll be going for existing and land. Yeah, I like the land model. We haven't actually acquired an existing one. And the value add model seems great. It's worked out great for you and for many other people. It's just in our market right now in the Metro Detroit area, there hasn't been anything that we've come across that really made sense just yet. But yeah, we'll be adding that to the marketing list.
Gotcha. Are you staying more in the suburbs than you're not in Detroit, right? You're in the suburbs.
Staying more in the suburbs, yeah. About maybe like a 45-minute radius of Detroit, from like Detroit to Ann Arbor and kind of like a half circle back to Detroit.
Gotcha.
If you could picture that.
Yeah. Do you have to fly back there very often, or have you been pretty successful just running it all from California or wherever you're at?
I've been flying back quite a bit. We're expecting our first child, so that's probably going to put a hamper on me flying back quite as often. But with the technology these days, we Matterport the builds every month, the new build every month. So we're able to see, and it's pretty amazing how accurate that is. We're able to see like 99.9% accuracy in terms of like the measurements and the square footage of the build. And that's nice.
So you can actually like inspect the build with the Matterport.
Yeah, which is crazy. So there's commercial properties, large scale commercial properties that actually get official inspections done through their Matterport, which is wild.
Did you buy your own or you pay somebody to do it?
Bought our own.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I've seen them out there.
Yeah. It doubles. The Matterport doubles as, we're going to be, I want residents that rent from the Palushaj brand to have just such a seamless and easy renting process, and Matterport makes it easy for us to go into every unit. Yeah, these aren't 300 unit developments, so maybe that might change, but every unit and get a layout of, okay, this is the unit that you will be renting. Does it work for you? Is this something you're looking for? It's not like, hey, this is a unit that was recently renovated, but you're not going to get this because you're going to get the one that hasn't been renovated yet.
Yeah.
So it looks really good, but unfortunately, we don't have any of those left.
Or they just have the overhead, these new complexes, a lot of them have the overhead view of like the layout and it's not even like actual pictures of the property. They'll have a couple pictures, but they're like previously staged unit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I want, as a renter, like I've rented for many years, I want to know like, okay, what is my view from the balcony? Is it going to be looking at the, the trash area, or is it going to be looking at the pool in the courtyard?
Yeah, exactly. So, so how are you doing now then, since you got the 12 unit, but you have and this is a problem that we've ran into, is as soon as you start going into this, you're not making any money. right? There's no income. Like that's the problem is like we go buy these buildings. It's not like when you're wholesaling, you're flipping, you're only saying you got active income coming in. Like we're just actively paying money for these buildings and putting more in renovations and salaries and all these things, and have really had a, not a hard time I'd say, but it's been a challenge with managing like capital and like trying to find a way to make money. So how are you doing that?
It is very challenging. To that exact point, like you said earlier, like we're kind of like in parallel to what we're doing and how we're growing our multifamily business, which is really cool. It'll be fun to follow you, crush it. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge. Navigating it is, fortunately we have some new builds on the single family side of things in the pipeline, and we still do some of the new builds
that you're selling.
That we're selling.
Okay.
Yep. To supplement some of that income that you're talking about. But yeah, raising capital from investors. It's the whole thing is a lot, and being able to manage the capital as you, especially with development, you're pouring money into, or like we're pouring money into three individual developments, and from architecture to hard money down for the land and stuff. It goes, and managing it is still something we're navigating and trying to figure out. Okay. Do we bring someone in to really that's an expert in managing that to help us? And that's something we've toyed with.
Yeah, it's like this, the buildings that we bought so far, like maybe they like break even or they cash flow a little bit, but like you still have an income coming in. This one that we're about to do is like, we're probably gonna have everybody leave and renovate it all at once. Cause it's like, there's like vacant units, but it's like kind of sporadic. So it's like, let's just get it all done. And so as you're raising capital, you're thinking to yourself like, well, okay, if I go put debt on this, I can't afford to cover the debt service every month. Like say I go put a bridge debt on it, right? And so I was having to talk to the lender like, okay, how do people do this where like, I don't want to pay you every month until we start getting some leases in, and they'll do those things, but then say I need to go raise the additional capital, right? And is that, do they get, a pref return only or interest rate return only? And then, well, then say no, because I can't, that would kill the deal, right? If I'm having to put out $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month with no income, like you can only last so long.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the challenge. And then just raising capital in general, because, you can go raise capital on these size of deals, like your mid-level deals that you're doing and we're doing. Like you could go give 50-50 away all day, but like, it doesn't make sense for me because that's a lot of effort to go give half the upside up, right? And then, so it's like, how are you looking at the financing? Like, what has been the biggest challenge? And like, I guess we're both navigating the same thing. So, what has been your experience so far?
Yeah, but you're right. It's challenging. We are navigating those waters at the same time and trying to figure out, okay, do you put good debt on something, but you have to make sure if the building's gonna go vacant and it's gonna be 6 months or 12 months, or it's like a construction loan. What I learned with the first 12 units, like, okay, put a construction loan on it, but make sure there's an end mortgage because COVID could happen. When we first started building it, no one heard of COVID. Yep. 19. So fortunately, there was an end mortgage on that construction loan, because 18 months, 24 months on a construction loan goes by pretty quick. And if banks and lenders tighten up because of an unknown thing like COVID, and you have a balloon due at 24 months, it's pretty stressful if you're not sitting on a ton of capital and you're just starting out in this business.
Yeah, it'll kill you.
It'll kill you. Yeah. So I think strategically, just I guess that was a lesson learned that, hey, make sure that as bad and as we want to scale and grow this business to something really big, make sure you're doing it consistently, slow and strategically, where there's good debt that on a construction loan that has an end mortgage. So just in case something like that happens, the interest rate may be a little high because we're just starting off, but at least there's that cushion and that security that, okay, when the place is rented, there is an end mortgage.
Do you have them though? Or can you go to Freddie Fannie? Because you can't place Freddie Fannie on the end.
Yeah, so you could, you could structure that end mortgage at like, maybe there's a prepayment on year one,
gotcha.
then it tears down on year two, 3, 4, and at year 3 you can refinance with whatever debt you want.
So that's the nice thing about the bridge that we were doing is there's no prepay penalty. It's 5-year term, and then so like it resets to a perm basically. Once you get your construction stuff done, it's like, what was it? Floor of 375 basis points to 3.75%. And then once you get done, it's all fully renovated, you're done with your rehab and all that, then they will leave. They don't want to keep the loan in place, but they have it, for up to 5 years, and it just goes to resets to floor of 375 or so many basis points above whatever treasury yield they want to throw out there, LIBOR or whatever. So
yeah,
that's nice in that sense. Because like you said, I talked to this guy. It was Bridge Capital. This guy, he started it. Their first complex they bought in '91. It was here in Richland. The guy lives in Utah. And they own 48,000 units now, or something like that. Something stupid. 4,000 people in just their property management company, right? What did he say? Their last fund, when I was golfing with them, $1 billion was their last fundraising round. So now they're just institutional guys, right? But what he told me was in 2007, 2008, the reason people went broke in multifamily was not because the properties weren't cash flowing, the properties weren't there, is because their maturity came due. And so they couldn't go, at that time, all credit, all debt, all mortgages for the commercial loans just froze because everybody was scared. Even if it was a good property, right? There was just no debt out there. So if you're having to go, and so we'll go back a step a little bit. In multifamily and commercial loans, it's different than a residential 30-year mortgage. So you go get a residential mortgage, it's 30 years, done, boom, you got 30 years locked in. So you don't ever have to change it if you don't want to. Commercial, there's so many different structures, but the most for a Freddie Fannie loan, which is kind of the best permanent debt I think out there. The max I think they do is 10 years in my market. I don't know if other tier 1 markets they might do longer, but it's a 10-year term, and then it's a 30-year amortization, but a 10-year term with a 10-year float. So that's a pretty good deal, but the float could get adjustable rate, so it could go high. But he said that's why these guys went broke, was because their debt matured. And if you look at these syndication guys, what they're going and doing, they say, oh, we have a 3-year loan, right? Sorry, I'm going on a rabbit trail, but I just want to kind of give this thought process out there. Yeah, so you'll see on these syndications, they want to buy it, they want to force value, and then they want to refi it out. Well, they're putting a 3-year bridge loan on there is what it's called. So they have 3 years. And in 3 years' time, they have to refinance out of that property. So if they can't refinance because whatever reason, they're screwed, right? And like you said, COVID, that March to May, lenders just stopped lending. Oh yeah. Commercial, they're like, no, we're done for a while. I mean, my partner Greg, he had loans lined up that they just said, yeah, we're not doing it. Construction loans, bank, for spec homes, nobody knew.
Yeah, so. It's such a good point, and being so raw and new to this whole business and this whole multifamily space, I could just see the maturity and like you put a bridge loan, but it's 5 years. Yeah. So if you look at real estate from say the early 1900s, yeah, there's peaks and valleys, but over a 10-year period, you've never seen 4 straight years of this in real estate. You've seen 12 months, 18 months, even 24 months, possibly. I don't know, maybe that's even
at the worst.
At the worst.
Yeah.
But if you have a 3-year bridge, that's why there's been some opportunities to buy some properties where the only way we could finance is through like a 2-year bridge debt. And I'm just like, you know what? I would rather organically grow our brand and what our communities are about, and take our time getting there and look at this as like hey, we're doing this for the next 20, 30, 40 years and building an organization that we could be proud of, instead of let's put a 2-year bridge loan, and if things stay hot like they are right now, we'll be in good shape. If not, well, how are we going to refinance it?
Yeah, it can't stay. It just can't not change. And so it's funny because we bought the 8 unit a year ago, basically a year ago, December. And we bought it for $1,030,000. So we had to go get Freddie Fannie debt's like $1 to $7 million on the small side, but they won't do anything less than $1 million. And so we went, and we didn't know either. We didn't know about Freddie before that anyway. So we went and did a credit union, and it was a 5-year term, but no prepayment. And the rate was like 4%. But I started talking to my guys 6 months into that loan, like, we need to start planning on refinancing out of this. So I started talking to my lender at Freddie, like, what do I need to do? Where do I need to be? What does it need to look like so I can refinance this into longer term debt? Because the market's changing rapidly right now. And that's my biggest concern with buying these buildings. And so what are you stress testing? And so stress testing means like you say worst case scenario happens for everything. Like my build costs go more, interest rates are higher when I need to go refinance, rents are probably down a little bit. But what are you stress testing your interest rate out at for your takeout loan for when you go refi?
So when we're underwriting, we're going very conservative, like 2% annual increases in rent. But when we're stress testing, if we could make the debt service at 60% occupancy, being 20% lower than current market rents, we're in really good shape. And I know that's very conservative. It's something that don't want to be in a position where, especially early on, when you don't have just unlimited capital to be like, okay, here's the loans due, here's a $5 million check. Okay, we'll be fine. We'll refinance it when the market gets better, or these
other 10 properties are 50%, cash cows. I can cover this debt for a while or whatever.
Exactly. So it's very strategic, so a lot of even our age, a lot of real estate investors our age, 32 years old, haven't really seen, you maybe remember 2008, 2009, but not everybody was involved and really had a pulse on that. So I just don't want to be in a position where 2008, 2009 comes, you have to refinance something and then interest rates shoot up like crazy, which, I think long-term, they won't go up a ton. Short-term, they may, but
yeah, so we're stress testing them at 6%. So if we had to go get it, like since say we fix all these buildings up and we have to go get a refinance, we're stress testing it at 6% interest rates. That's
awesome. That's great.
Because there's a case to be made that this whole deal with the Fed, there's guys that are really bearish all the time. There's guys that are really bullish. Right? You got your Kiyosakis and your Peter Schiffs that are like, the sky is falling, the world's going to fall apart. But you start looking at this, and it's like they have printed themselves into the biggest hole, and the economy for 10, 12 years has got addicted to cheap money, and they're going to have to do something drastic, I think, to get ourselves out of this. But the problem is, if you look at what happened in, 18, when the interest rates, their Fed funds rate got up 225 basis points, it was like the highest point it got. And interest rates got like 5%, 5.25%. Like Seattle lost $60,000 of median home value in 6 months, right? And historically, that's a really, really low interest rate.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're going to run into affordability, right? Like homes are getting expensive because interest rates are so low, so people can afford so much more. But you start putting the interest rates at 4.5%, 5%, something's going to change really quickly.
Yeah, something's going to change. I am by no means any expert, but living in a country like Switzerland, where interest rates are really low, and a lot of the European countries are near zero. I don't know. I hope we see that here in the US. I just don't see how it's possible with how much money we've printed the last 18 months. But who knows?
Well, they have. I was reading even in Europe, some of these countries are super negative. They're negative interest rates. But I think the euro, they're talking about there's a good chance the euro might fail because of the EU's monetary policy. It's not looking good.
Yeah. So in Switzerland, you have to, if you have over, I think it's $250,000 in an account, you have to actually pay the bank to keep your money there. So each account.
So it's negative interest rates. Yeah.
Yeah. So each account, obviously that's a lot of money. $250,000 is a lot of money. And maybe that doesn't affect too many people, but for high net worth individuals and people that have high paying jobs, they have to have separate accounts. It's crazy that some of my teammates were telling me that.
That is crazy. So, but what is a mortgage over in Europe? What's a mortgage like? Did you ever look
really
at
low? Really low.
Really?
Yeah. Construction loan, I think my teammate was getting at 0.5%.
Who's making the loans though? Because nobody's making any money.
I have no clue. I didn't really. I didn't care to ask too many questions about it. I was just like, wow, good for you. Yeah. You're gonna build a nice house.
Yeah, because the crazy thing is, and another reason this market has ran up so much, the quantitative easing, the Fed was buying securities, right? They're buying bonds and they're buying security, or they're buying $150 billion, $50 billion a month of securities or whatever. Anyway, so they were buying $50 billion a month of mortgage-backed securities is what they were buying. And so I did a little research. I think it was 1.7, 1.8 trillion last year. It was the most amount of mortgages ever done. The Fed was a buyer of a third of those. And now they're paring that back. So supply and demand tells me if you have a guy that doesn't need to make money that's buying these, well, things are going to compress. If that buyer goes away, well, all these guys that want to make money, rates are going to go up, right? Because there's not as much people fighting for those mortgages.
Yeah. The whole landscape is just, it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. I think you guys are doing a really great thing with your stress test at 6% interest rates on a refinance. I think people in the syndication business, they look at these high growth markets, the Southeast, the Phoenix and the Austins, and
Houston's big name right now.
Houston, and they see, double digit annual rent growth. And they're not necessarily underwriting that, but maybe they're underwriting 5-7%. And
they are.
You could, they may be, and you can make the numbers. I mean, the numbers could look really, really good on paper. And it's just, if things change and the landscape changes with interest rates and stuff, I just feel like being a little conservative at this point is not a bad idea.
So we got to wrap it up here in a minute, but the one story that I got told by Ken McElroy, he owns 8,000 units. He wrote the ABC, he wrote the book on real estate investing with Kiyosaki. Like, guy's really, really sharp. If you want to follow somebody that's just doing a lot of good stuff, follow him on YouTube and Instagram and stuff. But he had told me a story that they were selling one of their buildings in Texas, and they felt like they got all the juice out of it. It was just time to move on to another asset. They close out that syndication and then move it somewhere else. Couple weeks goes by after that, they give it to the agent. It's probably pocket listing or whatever. Couple weeks goes by, his partner gets an email from this guy syndicating their deal. Oh, the rents are so below market value. There's so much value add here on this property. Like, they have it tied up and they're going and syndicating and raising money for this deal. And it's like, you're literally buying it from the guy that wrote the book about doing what you're trying to do. And you're saying, and so it's like, you can, like you said, you can make the numbers look really good. The problem is, like you said earlier too, we weren't around in 2008. Everybody looks like geniuses. That's why I was always like, so not wanting to sell a course or be a content guy, because like, I don't know. I haven't seen a correction. I haven't seen any of these things. Like, I look really good, but when the tide goes out, we'll see whose pants are down. Right.
Yeah. And
so that's the concern is, and I had another guy tell me one time that he invested in 4 syndications and 3 of them lost money. So, I mean, it's just, they're buying retail deals and they're putting pie in the sky numbers out there. It's, it's their job on these syndications is to make money on fees. Like, the reason I don't want to give equity away in my deals is because I want to earn my equity, right? But these guys will go, because I'm not doing big enough deals for fees. And so these guys are doing $50 million, $100 million deals. Well, they're taking 2% acquisitions fee, asset management fee, which is not a property management fee, by the way.
Yeah. Very, very different.
Property management fee, disposition fee, all these fees, making millions of dollars just on fees. So they're like, who cares? I'll pay you, pref. I don't have to pay you if the deal is making money. I'll give you 70%. Shit, I'll give you 90%. Just pay me my fees.
Yeah. It's definitely a model that, raising investor money. I personally would rather do more of like a JV style as opposed to, okay, I'm going to charge for this, and that, and try to make try to squeeze juice out of, all your buddies, your friends and family that you're raising money from. And it's just not my style, not how I want to organically grow our company.
Yeah. That's why we're going to have a great year. Just, hopefully we don't come back on this podcast and say we're broke and the market crashed. Yeah. Be like, hey, what job do you have? You're a janitor now? Are you driving a Zamboni?
Oh, Zambonis are pretty sweet.
Yeah. So awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, guys. This was a little bit of a different show. I think I have a really good relationship with Aaron, so I think I missed a lot of the questions that, that I normally go, but I think if you listened all the way through, I think it was a very good conversation. Sorry if I talked too much, but
Elliot, it was awesome, man. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. Where can people find out more about you?
They can find me on Instagram at Palush, APALOOSH. Email me at aaron@palushcapital.com. Yeah, those are 2 ways. I'm on LinkedIn, pretty much all the social media platforms. Website's still under construction, hasn't been the number 1 priority as we're growing our business. So that'll be coming here in the coming weeks.
Nice. You think it's time for a new photo? You got this like this suave, like your 007 photo on your Instagram.
Oh, no, yeah. I'll have to
it's your
check.
email. It's on your email, I think is what
It's on my email.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm gonna have to get a photographer.
Yeah.
But I don't mind if he said it looks like a 007. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, you look good. You look good. Yeah. It looks like you've killed some people. Yeah.
Oh, maybe I might want to change that.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, Elliot.